Today I'm going to walk you through how I built this simple garden box. It's sturdy, critter-proof, and perfect for protecting plants like this strawberry plant. I'm adding this box over the top of my girlfriend's strawberries because the squirrels and bunnies have been having their way and stealing everything. Before we jump into the build, let's take a look at what we were using before. This netting has been doing its best, but honestly, it's not a long-term solution. The critters can easily get in, and removing the netting every time we need to water or check the plant is a hassle. It's time for an upgrade. We're going to keep this straightforward with just a few materials. Here's what you'll need to build the garden box. 4 pressure-treated 2x4s, 2 pressure-treated 2x2s, a circular saw or drop saw, impact driver to fasten screws, drill to pre-drill pilot holes, chicken wire, a stapler, galvanized staples, 3 galvanized hinges, exterior deck screws, 3-inch, 2-inch, and 1-inch. Here's everything laid out. Now that we have all our materials squared away, let's get started. The first step will be to cut the 2x4s that will form the base. The first cuts for the 2x4s will be cut into 4 3-foot sections and 8 2-foot sections. This will form the top and bottom frame of the flower box. Remember always, safety first. I typically only measure the first piece in a series of cuts. After that, I use the cut piece of wood and mirror the length for the remainder of the cuts. Now that we have all pieces cut, we can assemble the base. Before you start to fasten the pieces together, lay them out on the ground or a table to ensure everything fits together and is laid out well. Each base will have 2 3-foot pieces and 2 2-foot pieces. I like to pre-drill all my holes with a power drill to prevent the wood from splitting. Honestly, it just makes life easier and makes sure your screws are going in where you intended them to be. I'm using the impact driver to secure the corners. For each connection, I am using 2 3-inch exterior deck screws. Make sure to check that your frame is square before driving the screws in. Remember, it doesn't need to be perfect, but it should be as square as possible. Frame number 1 is done. We will now follow the same process and build an identical frame. Lay out your wood, pre-drill your holes, and drive your screws. Now that we have the top and bottom frames built, we can assemble the main box. To assemble the frame, you will need the 4 remaining 2-foot sections of 2x4s. The remaining 2-foot sections will be used to connect the top and the bottom. Typically, I'd like to use pocket holes for these types of connections, but honestly, it's overkill for a simple garden box. These vertical supports will give the garden box its height, which is going to be 2 feet tall. Make sure everything is aligned and the base is level before fastening all the screws in. You do not want this box to be wobbly. For the vertical support, I am using 2 2-inch exterior deck screws per connection. Next, you'll need to start the process of adding the top frame. This is going to be a little bit cumbersome, but trust me, it'll be easy once you get the first screw driven in. All you have to do is go to the other side and drive the screw, and now the hard work's over. The main box is now built. We can move on to the lid. For the lid, we will use 2x2s. This will keep the box light but sturdy. We will need 3 2-foot pieces and 4 2-foot pieces. With the pieces cut, we can lay them out on the ground and start the lid assembly. Let's assemble the lid the same way we did the base. I'm pre-drilling and fastening the 2x2s with 3-inch exterior deck screws in each connection. I know this is probably overkill, but I want to make sure the lid stays square and solid. Once the lid is assembled, we can place it on top of the garden box to make sure everything looks good. To attach the lid, I'm using 3 galvanized hinges to ensure it is strong and opens smoothly. I attached 1 hinge at a time, starting with the center. Each of these hinges will require 6 1-inch screws. I use deck screws. I think they're fine for this application. People might complain, but remember, you're building a lid for a garden box. This will be more than adequate to keep it together. Instead of installing a mechanism to keep the box open, I like to attach small pieces of wood to the back of the box to act as a rest so the lid stays open when watering or harvesting strawberries. The easy part is now done. Attaching the chicken wire is this build's hardest and most tedious step. I recommend wearing gloves to prevent getting nicked or poked by the rough edges. Start by unraveling your chicken wire around the vertical sides of the box. Start with staples on one corner and work your way up and down the box until you get back to the starting point. You're going to want to try to keep the wire as tight as possible while fastening the wire around the box. This will prevent waves and dips in the exterior. Once you think you've added enough staples, add some more for good measure. If you notice dips or loose spots, grab a flathead screwdriver to create tension and add additional staples. With the sides done, we can now move to the lid. Lay the chicken wire on top and cut it to size. Start on one side and work your way up and down until you're done. This wire will be rigid and strong and keep anything out. Just like the sides, there can never be too many staples. Just keep clicking away. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more DIY adjacent projects. If you have any suggestions or questions, please leave a comment below. Until next time, remember, it's always DIY until it isn't. Peace.